it's Mary Sheila, and I wanted to show you how I prepare a chicken. Sometimes I call this Sunday chicken, and lo and behold, today is Sunday. And I'm prepping a little bit of food for my week so that I am prepared and can easily just come into my kitchen and make my food and know what's there and not be scrambling and looking for snacks. It really, really helps. And it's sort of like having a more of a mindful week, right? It adds mindfulness to my week. So I really love that. And for me, it's really important. Especially if I am going out, I know what food I can prepare and take with me, or if I'm staying home, I know what food I can prepare at home. So I have a whole chicken here, and I'm going to do a few things with it. So I'm just going to show you really quickly. Okay, so I've got the whole chicken. It's raw, so things are going to get a little messy, but I do it right next to the sink, which really helps. So here's my chicken, and I've got the wings here, and I've also got the legs. And I have to say, I had to work up to this. I used to be really, really grossed out by touching any kind of raw meat. And I used to not even eat meat until I realized I really needed it. And that was actually when I was pregnant with my daughter. All of a sudden, I started craving it. And luckily, my husband was a really good cook, a chef, and he fed me meat. And then I said, okay, I think I really need this because I felt the difference in my body. So I always respect wherever people are at, whether they're vegetarian, vegan, meat eaters, but I feel like it's so important to really listen to your body. So what I like to say is be a flexitarian. Just be flexible with what your body might need. So I've come a long way. My husband gave me a few lessons over the years, and now I feel really comfortable and I don't get as grossed out at all. And I just try to have a lot of respect. And in the sense of getting a whole chicken versus getting parts, which getting parts is often a lot safer if you're like, oh, get parts. But if you're like, wow, I want to use the whole thing, I'm going to make a few meals from this. I'm going to actually make a ramen style soup with the breast tomorrow. I'm going to make a kind of a chicken cacciatore, Irish girl style tonight. And then I'm going to make a delicious bone broth for my soup tomorrow, and then for other things I might make. So I'll use the whole thing. So the first thing you need to know is there's a back end with the backbone, and then there's also the breast end. So I'm going to have the breast side up for right now. This is the head part, and then here's the legs down here, and here's the wings, right? And so what I'm going to do, and the thing about cutting a whole bird is you just want to have a sharp knife, and you're not really cutting into bones. You're not really cutting through things. You're trying to find the edges with your knife. And once you do it a few times, you're like, oh, I totally can get that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the weight of the chicken. So I'm going to take a leg in my hand, and then I'm just going to, and I haven't taken the skin off or anything, and I'm just going to kind of slice into it and let the gravity and just kind of pull. And as soon as I slice into it just a little bit, you see I barely cut into it. I mostly just cut into the skin. I'm going to see where it naturally wants to just come apart. And again, I'm not the pro at this. I'm sure there's people that can show you better. But I pulled it apart enough. I shouldn't make disclaimers. I'm a freaking pro. No, I'm just kidding. But why we always make disclaimers for ourselves. But here the leg bone kind of popped out. So that's showing me that's where there's a natural separation. So then I'm going to come across here and just, very easily just cut off the leg. So there I have a leg, skin and all. So now I'm going to leave the skin intact because when I do my chicken cacciatore, my braised chicken, I'm going to sear it on the skin and brown the skin and get rid of some of the fat. Then I'm going to turn it back over and then pop it into the oven. And it's a really easy dish. So I've got my chicken there. Now I'm just going to go over to the other side and do the other leg. Again, I'm going to kind of pull it up, find that natural place where I could see it separating and just the skin is holding it apart. And I'm just going to slice into it just a little bit. And I can see it opening up, right? And I'm just going to keep going. And boom. There, I've got it. Whoops, kind of, sometimes I cut into those bones, but whatever. Okay, and there I've got my other one, and I'm just going to put it in a bowl that I have sitting aside. Now I'm going to come up to my legs, my wings. The wings have 3 parts, 1, 2, and 3. So I've got my 3 legs. Same thing, I'm gonna kind of let gravity do its part. I'm just gonna hold it up here like this and look for that bone joint right there. And once again, I've got it like that. Now, I can cook it just like this, or I could take this outer part and kind of tuck it underneath and make a nice little compact little thing. And it's not really staying. But sometimes it stays really good. This one's not staying for some reason. Anyways, and it's fine to just cook it like this. This is actually my favorite part of the chicken. Whenever we make this, I always take the wings, and it's usually for dinner. It's usually enough meat for me. I don't eat as much meat at night because I feel like when I eat too much, I don't sleep as well. So there is my other one. Let's see if I can get this one to work. Tucking it under. It's funny, I haven't been tucking it under lately and it's not working. But sometimes you could tuck it up and it keeps it compact, but it's fine like that. So now I've got the back right here, and then I've got the breasts, okay? So I'm just gonna leave it all intact, and there's a breastbone that goes right down the middle, and there's also the skin. Now in this particular case, I am actually gonna take the skin off of this. When I bake these, I am not gonna bake them this time with the skin, so I'm not that worried about it, but you know, and I'm already kind of missing a little bit here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find that breastbone, and then I'm just gonna come to the inside of that, and I'm gonna just cut down as much as I can to get as much of the breast as I can. And it's pretty tender. It's not like it's that rough now that I'm actually more cutting into the meat. And this is actually a kind of a big bird, and it's a big breast. And so there we have it. I've got my chicken breast. And I'm just gonna let the skin come off. And the skin comes off pretty darn easy, as you can see. So there I've got my breast. So you'll see I've got, you know, this side and then the underside. So I will probably actually, because these are big breasts, I will probably bake one of these just to have for like my lunches. And then I will make the other one to go with my soup. So what I'll probably actually do today, since I'm going to make that soup tomorrow, is I'll maybe even marinate that. I'm going to make an Asian style, like ramen with rice noodles. And I'm going to probably maybe marinate it in a teeny bit of vinegar and some soy sauce. Yum. And some spices. Now you're like, I want that recipe, which maybe you will. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how easy it is to take the skin off. If I wanted to do that first, like the skin, same thing. Gravity is your friend when you're working with protein. And I'm just gonna cut the skin off. Boom, the skin is cut. Now I've got my breastbone here again. So again, I'm just gonna feel for that space. So I'm just going ahead and cutting this. And again, you might watch another chef do this way better than me. This is just like my own kitchen version that I've kind of, you know, my husband showed me and I just do it. And I found my feel and my rhythm with it. And that's just what I recommend for you. So here's my other breast. So now, and I kind of missed a chunk here and I missed a few chunks here, whatever. I'm not that worried about it. So now I've got this whole carcass and I've got more fat here. I'm just going to trim that off. This is going to be for my bone broth. Now I'm going to make a nice bone broth, and I am going to cut off some of this fat because I know I'm already going to get a lot of fat in here. And I've been just experimenting with my own diet and trimming the fat out of my own diet a little bit. So I'm going to trim the fat off of, I mean, I'm not like not having fat, but I've just been playing with the amounts and the types that I have of fats. So I'm going to take this any excess fat that I can see. So again, you know, I'm just grabbing the skin, pulling it and cutting it. So there I've got my back. Boom. Now I've got this nice carcass. I'm going to put it into my Instapot. I'm going to wash my hands. And this particular chicken, and I should just double check, which I'm pretty positive, did not come with all the little parts. Sometimes they're not coming with the parts these days. You know, and the main thing when you do this, you just want to clean up really good. I remember my mom, one thing that she used to do that I do too is she'll boil some water, and then when she's all done cleaning up, she'll just pour the boiling water into the sink to kind of sterilize it and clean it. I think that's a great idea. Now I'm going to add any kitchen and veggie scraps here, and I'll make my bone broth. I use my pressure cooker, my Instapot, and I run it twice just to really extract everything out of it. But I just wanted to show you how to cut up your chicken. So I hope that's helpful. You're going to get your hands dirty. It's going to get more and more comfortable every time you do it. And you're going to be able to use the whole bird, which is actually really great. You'll get a few meals. You can even freeze one of the breasts if you live by yourself, or freeze the legs by themselves, so you could just pull one out. You know, just be creative, make leftovers, make things from it, and use up the whole chicken, the whole bird, all the parts. So thanks for watching. And I wanted to show you how I make a broth, and not just any old broth, although any old broth will do. I'm going to do it in my pressure cooker, Instapot, that I actually love making my broth in because it's really quick and easy. It used to be something that, you know, I would let my stock simmer and marinate all night long in the crock pot, which is amazing. But if you can do it in a shorter amount of time, it saves your energy as well. And if, you know, people don't love the way broth smells in your house, then you're going to be a winner on that one too. So I've just turned my broth on to saute, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make more of a pho, and I'm going to make more of a pho that has a lot of flavor in it, and I'm going to be making like a chicken ramen soup with it. Yum. So the first thing I do when I make a pho, when you make any dish, if you can really think about layering in your flavors, that is exactly what you want to do. So I have about 2 tablespoons of coriander, a teaspoon of black pepper, just maybe 3 or 4 cloves, and 1 cardamom pod that I'm going to throw in here, and a cinnamon stick. And I'm just going to kind of toast my seeds to begin with, just to kind of wake them up. When you toast your seeds, the oils, and they all kind of come to the edges, and they get just more flavorful. So I can just shake it up a little bit. I can already start to smell them. I have just turned this on a little minute ago. I'm gonna let that go. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just, again, build layers of flavor. So this is my first layer of flavor. It's hot, that's what it's telling me. And I can smell them. It smells really good. I can smell the clove for sure. And I'm not gonna let them sit too long in here. Again, I'm just waking them up. And I'm gonna throw some other veggies in here as well. I've got a carrot and I've got an onion. And actually, I'm gonna cut the onion first because that's going in there next. And because this is a broth, I don't have to worry about cutting so fine or anything. I just am gonna roughly dice these onions with some ginger, and that's gonna be my next layer of flavor. Okay, I can smell my seeds. I'm just gonna pour them out into a bowl and save them for just a moment. And I'm gonna add my onion. Again, just nice big chops, because this is gonna go into a broth. And I'm gonna just throw my onion in there. Ooh, yeah, that's a good sound. With a little bit of ghee, I've got a little ghee on my spoon, and a little bit of ginger. Again, I don't need to worry about peeling it or anything. And this is gonna be another layer of flavor for my broth. Now, in the recipe that I'll share with you that you can get if you click the link below, it's a slightly different version, but I just wanted to make this, and I wanted to make it with exactly what I had on hand. I didn't want to have to do a big shop and have to, you know, go shopping and get all the stuff. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, and that's exactly what you should do. The other things I'm gonna end up putting in here is some astragalus root that I get from the herb store, and this is what it looks like. And it's a really good medicinal herb that's great for the immune system. It's actually very particular to helping to boost our white blood cells. So that's going to be a great add-in that I'll put in when I have the water going. The other thing that I'm going to add is a little bit of maitake mushrooms. I think in my recipe I call for reishi mushrooms, which are also a great immune booster. And so are these maitakes, and that's what I have on hand. And my friend actually dried these for me, these maitake mushrooms. So I'm gonna add those in there too in a moment. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of seaweed. Again, I think my recipe calls for wakame or kombu, which are both beautiful, actually local to me seaweeds. So this is actually wakame seaweed that I harvested. Wakame has a nice kind of hard stem in the middle of it, and then it has a lot of more tender parts on the outside of the stem. So when I'm making a seaweed dish and I'm going to eat the seaweed and actually chew on it, then I will separate it from the stem, but I save the stems for when I make my stock. So I've got a nice little handful of seaweed that it's going to go in there as well. So I'll put about probably 5 little pieces of astragalus, a nice piece of the maitake, and then a little handful of the seaweed. I've got a carrot here as well that I'll just sort of, again, very roughly chop up. And then I've got a chicken back that I just have now my chicken back. So what I'm going to actually do in here right now is I'm going to throw this chicken in there with the onions and just kind of get it a little bit browning with those onions. And then in a moment, I'm going to add everything in there and my water, and I'm going to add a little tiny bit of something sour, and that's going to be either vinegar or lemon, whatever you have on hand. I'm going to use a little lemon for that today. And what is the little bit of sour? I might have said bitter, but I meant to say sour. The little bit of sour is going to actually make the water a little more acidic and kind of call on the more alkaline minerals to come out from the bones. And that's going to make it really mineral rich, as will all the minerals and everything that I'm using here. I'm just going to give this a little turn. Sometimes what you can do with your chicken, with your bones, I mean, you can absolutely just save your bones every time you make something and store them in your freezer. And then you can actually just put them in the oven and brown them. You can do that with feet and backs. You can brown them first. And that's just going to create more flavor, basically more umami. By me putting all these herbs and spices and mushroom and seaweed along with the ginger and all the spices, I'm going to create more of an umami flavor in my dish, in my broth, and it's going to be really nice. I'm not going to salt it right now. I mean, I'll probably get a little salt from my seaweed, because my seaweed, when I harvest it, I just dry it with the salt on it. I'm not going to salt it because I might cook a bean with it or something else with it, and I'm going to want to be able to use it and salt it to taste when I want to use it. And you can absolutely do all of these ingredients without the meat and just make a umami style mineral broth. So I'm just feeling like I'm ready to throw in my carrots, throw in my mushroom, my seaweed, my astragalus, and my spices, and my water. And again, sometimes I don't do all these ingredients. It just depends on my time and energy to making a broth. Ooh, that's going to quiet everybody up a little bit. I will probably add another thing of water here too. I'll add 2 quarts. So I'm going to add another quart of water to my stock. Okay, so I've got everything in there, and now what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of lemon juice, and that is going to give it the acidity that I'm looking for. And I'm going to then change my pressure cooker onto pressure cooking, my Instapot onto pressure cooking. And I am going to find the broth setting. And you know what I actually do a lot of is I will run my pressure cooker twice on the broth setting. I'll just do it and then I'll do it one more time. I just feel like my bones are a little bit more broken down the second time, and I personally like that. But you can just do it once as well. Then I will strain everything, and then I will have this beautiful rich broth that then I can make anything with. I'm going to make a delicious ramen soup with this week. Sometimes I like it like a cup of tea, or I'll put a little miso in there. Sometimes if I cook rice, especially for my family, or beans, or any other kind of soup, I will use that as a base. If I want to make a really like a saute and I don't want to use oil, I will just use my broth. It is so versatile and it's so good to have on hand. And to be quite honest with you, being a practitioner for the last 13 years, I feel like sometimes the broth, it can be one of the biggest game changers when it comes to our health, especially when it comes to healing the gut. I had one client who had a ton of autoimmune, and and sometimes when I have clients that they do it all, they do everything. And then I really try to drill in with them, like, what do you feel like was made the biggest impact in what you've done? And I'll actually say two things, not just one, but one of them is the broth. Like the broth this is like, let's heal and seal the gut. So, it's very preventative to keep the gut healed and sealed, because that's at the root of almost every autoimmune disease is it stems from leaky gut. And then the other piece is not even as much food, but it's just like mindfulness and tapping into that parasympathetic nervous system. It's the ability to have that resilience, and because life might throw a bunch of punches at you and you want to be able to get back up, but you have to also be able to not, have everything that comes at you just completely be too hard for you, to be too hard and take you down. So the more we can practice being in the parasympathetic, the rest and digest nervous system, the more that we can, heal, because that's what it takes. Because when we live in fight or flight, that can be like not good for our gut. That can make the gut thin and leaky. That's going to affect our sleep. That's going to affect all the aspects of our life. So the more you can be in that parasympathetic, that rest and digest. So that's mindfulness. That's actually like being mindful before a meal. That's being mindful after a meal, during a meal, everything that we're doing, right? It's really paying attention and being present. And that's a game changer when it comes to any kind of autoimmune or any kind of disease. So I'm going to cover this baby up. I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm probably going to do it twice, and I'm going to strain it and enjoy it all week long. So I hope you can make some broth too. Click down below and grab the recipe that I have that's really delicious. Have a great day.